Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia, and this is my mother, Ima. Hey, Ima.
Hey, sweetheart. I'm looking at myself in this video. I do not photograph well. I look so ugly and fat in this thing.
Everyone looks ugly and fat in these things. What are you talking about? I look disgusting. It's all right. We'll figure something out.
Can't they do something with these videos so that people at least look attractive? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, attractive
some people do.
Attractive.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. It's all the angles. You look it up and you look like your face is all blown up and things like that.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh. So we talked about last episode. We said we're going to get into tattoos. So we can talk about it a little bit.
What was that funny story? What was that funny story that you wanted me to tell this week? Darn,
I have it written down. I have it written down.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. I have everything written down. Okay. It's all in the process of everything. So just to reiterate, I mean, yes, I have my smicha.
The copier. Yeah. I was telling that story to one of the teachers at where I worked, who's kind of in my age bracket. Oh my God, she said she remembers those things so well.
So we'll tease it. So that's a nice little tease. So let's get back into this one, and then we'll tease it, and we'll talk about the story. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So just to reiterate, like I've done my own personal research, and I'm not an authority on things, so to speak, or I'm not giving authority. But I'm just telling you the research that I found in Judaism based on tattoos. So you're not allowed to make a kakua, which
what's a kakua?
A kakua is when you either cut yourself and pour ink, or you pour ink and you cut yourself and create images, and things like that, for idol worship or for Hashem. You're not supposed to do that. So it goes into debate about what is a kakua, and some Rabbanim say it's only if you write a certain pasuk on your arm, and others say that even pouring ash on a wound would be considered kakua, because you're not allowed to make any permanent markings on yourself. And then of course it gets into the whole debate of, can you even write on your arm with a pen like you're writing on your arm? And there's a debate on that about whether that's allowed or not. Everything is debatable. But what's interesting is that in modern times with modern Rabbanim, when there are issues when it comes to with women with getting cosmetic tattoos, they say that it's, if you speak to the right posek, if you speak to the right person, right rabbi, they can give you a heter for a cosmetic tattoo. And what that is that, you can have, like, you go to a tattoo artist and you get like redder lips, or you get permanent eyeshadow, or you get your eyebrows done, or some people who have, God forbid, breast cancer, and they can get various, cosmetic work done on there. Or if somebody that, is going through cancer, I know my friend was going through cancer and he needed to get a tattoo. What they had to do is they had to tattoo dots on his chest because he had to properly align this mask over him so they can make sure that every single time they I don't say spray radiation, but they put radiation on him, that they get the right markings every single time. So they had to he had to get a tattoo on himself, so they knew the precision. So there is, heterim, there is possibilities of those kinds of tattoos, but I think in general, though, it's just not going to take off when it comes to getting these, artistic tattoos on yourself. That's something that, like,
the couple of reasons that I'm kind of prejudiced against tattoos in general is because I remember when I was a kid growing up, seeing some of these prestigoisha guys, the kind that used to hang out in bars, your wear the wife beater t-shirts and everything. A lot of them had these, this is 1950s, and a lot of them had these like big crazy tattoos that just look so, I don't know, it's just so obnoxious. And so the thing is, so I associate it with like a low class individual, because those are the people I saw that had them. But the thing with tattoos, a few things. First of all, it's been proven that over time, the ink from the tattoos does start to be absorbed into the bloodstream, can cause health problems, which concerns me. Also, I see this all the time where I've seen women who have gotten these, one young woman got this really beautiful, I gotta admit, it was a beautiful tattoo. It was a flower and it was pink and all these beautiful colors. But as time goes on, these tattoos, I don't know, it seems to fade or something happens to the color and it just doesn't look as nice.
Well, that's why you have to get them redone. People get their tattoos redone a lot of times.
Well, I've seen a couple women too who got those eyebrow tattoos, and over time they turn blue.
Oh, the black.
These women now have blue eyebrows.
Well, you just got to be careful with what kind of ink you use and who you go to. I think if you go to the wrong person, they might give you cheap ink, and then that's what would probably happen.
I'll just stick with Maybelline eyebrow liner.
Maybelline. Maybe it's Maybelline. Yeah.
We're not making a plug for the company. Don't get the wrong idea.
No, of course not. I don't think we get free shit even if we tried. But yeah, back to, so now that we finished, we teased the story. We're talking about the story when copier machines were just were brand new and they were hand cranked copy machines.
Right. In my day, they were called Spirit Copiers. I think you said it was that you looked it up on the internet. You Googled it, I think, and they were called Spirit Copiers. And what they consisted of was a metal drum, and you made a carbon copy. You either typed it out, or you wrote it out, or you basically, did whatever you wanted copied. And you would separate the carbon. You would take the carbon away from the paper, and then you would there was a clip, like the drum. There was like a small opening in the drum where you would put the top of the document you were printing, the carbon copy that is, and then you would click it shut to hold it. And then you would actually hand crank the thing to make as many copies as you wanted. And the ink that was used in it was called Spirit ink. It had a certain chemical in it. I think you looked it up.
Menthanol, something like that.
Right. And you said that they discontinued it because it was environmentally unsafe. And I can believe that, because me and this other teacher were discussing how when teachers would print these things up, like just before the class was coming, like the class is literally coming down the hall, and you're going real fast to print into you're cranking and cranking and cranking and cranking to get the copies out before the kids actually come in the room and sit down. So when teachers would do this, you could smell, when they brought in these copies, you could smell this chemical on the papers. And if you breathed it in, it would give you a cheap high. So there was this kid in our Spanish class in high school. So whenever the teacher would bring in these freshly printed copies, he would grab it and say, "Oh, profesora, mil gracias," and push it against his face and breathe it in.
Stupid little stoner. God, that's hilarious.
It's interesting. I was thinking too about, like, we're talking like technology, whatever. I remember the days before car windows were electronic, and you actually had to hand crank them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when people roll down their windows. People do that circular hand motion to roll down your windows. It's because of the hand cranking. Right, it was a regular hand crank. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there used to be no seat belts, and they used to have car seats that were really, bad. I remember the baby car seats when they first came out. Oh my God, you had to the backs of most cars today are there's not like a platform in the back there. You just, you have your seat, and then you just have the trunk. In those days, cars had this like little platform below the rear window in the back of the car. And when car seats first came out, you actually had to drill a hole into that little platform and screw in
the teeter of the car seat.
Wow.
And it was there permanently. It's like you couldn't switch car seat from car to car. Once it was in your car, it was screwed in and it was in. And I always wondered to myself, wait a minute, I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. Why can't you just seatbelt the darn thing in? And evidently it was built in such a way that you couldn't. In fact, I decided like the heck with it. I wasn't about to drill a hole in my car. And when your older sister was a baby, I just would take these car seats and just connect the seat belts to them. And there was a woman in Baltimore who she took it upon herself. I don't know why, I wasn't about to ask her, but she took it upon herself to make an entire campaign of educating the people in the area to car seats. And if she saw a mother either not putting her child in the car seat or putting her child in a car seat that that weren't using properly, they were still seat belting when it was supposed to be drilled in, she would come over. In fact, she came over to me about that and she handed me her card and she told me about how I was not using my car seat properly. As a matter of fact, she was a pioneer in getting these corporations to eventually develop car seats that were more user-friendly. When car seats first came out, you had to have sometimes a PhD in engineering to even put them in your car. And she went to the head of the safety board, I think in Maryland, and she brought in one of the car seats that was really being pushed on the market. It was very popular. And she showed it to him. She goes, okay. She says, now, how would you set this up in your car? And how would you thread all these belts? And she told me this was a story. She said he looked it all over and he was like an engineer or something. He was supposed to be in charge of safety, car safety. And he looked at this and he just shook his head. He said he couldn't figure it out. He says, if I can't figure this out, he doesn't know how the average parent can possibly figure this thing out. And eventually, as we all know, car seats became much more user-friendly to what they are today. You can just, pull them in and out, just put a seatbelt around them and, Genugshane, it's pretty easy. But originally it wasn't that way.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I know there wasn't any headrests as well. Mm-hmm. Growing up. And I mean, for me growing up in the 90s, like I don't remember that much safety issues. I don't really think of it as I don't think there was any problems. I mean, I don't know. I can't say that there was so much safety differences, at least from my perspective. I couldn't remember.
I was very, very happy for one when they passed the car seat law for children, say 6 and under, because until they did that, don't ask how many well-meaning people I fought tooth and nail with that wanted to, take my kids out my babies or my kids out for an afternoon or something, do me a favor. And I said, please take them in the car seat. What car seat? What are you talking about? I'll hold them. It'll be okay. And I said, no, it won't. I said, please use the car seat. Oh, you're being paranoid. You're just being an overprotective mommy. And when I finally passed the law, now it was off the hook. I can say, look, if you don't do it, a policeman picks you up, you're going to get a fine. Okay, so it's the law now. Well, so they wouldn't argue with. My child's safety, they would argue. But the fact that they could get a ticket and a fine, that they wouldn't argue with.
Well, now that you mention it, I do remember as a kid not having to have a booster. And I do remember as I got older, boosters became more common, like you had to have one.
Mm-hmm. They were, there was a controversy, I remember, during the 90s because they wanted to make the child car seat law according to the child's weight. And they wanted to make 80 pounds as the cutoff. And this man wrote, I think, Who, What, When, and Where. There was back and forth about this. And this one man wrote in that his daughter, who was like, I think 12 years old or something, was not 80 pounds. She was very, very thin. And so he put her in one of these booster seats that was recommended. He says her head hit the ceiling. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then that's when they backtracked, and instead they made the law for, at that time, 8 years old. I think it was 8 years old or 6 years old, something like that and under. They made it according to age rather than pounds.
Do you remember like driving in your parents' car, like with like no seatbelts and stuff?
Oh, you better remember those. Oh, in fact, I remember when the fight about seatbelts came out, when the research came out and the fights came out. And at first, the manufacturers were not compliant at all. There were many cases of people who would ask for seatbelts, and it would say, "Oh, what do you need them for?" You know, or you get these stories about, oh, that somebody was in an accident and their dying words were that damn seatbelt. You know, those days, now that's interesting. Foreign cars, especially, I remember the Volkswagen having a seatbelt and a shoulder harness way before any American cars, even thought of it. And I remember driving with my mother, and we saw some young man driving in a Volkswagen, and he had a shoulder harness. And my mother commenting, "Oh yeah, you really need a shoulder harness with their cars. With those cars, they're so dangerous." That was the first thought when they first started the whole idea that seatbelts should be required. A lot of people thought that seatbelts and shoulder harnesses. A lot of people thought, like my mother, that the seatbelt and the shoulder harness was an indication of cars that were dangerous. But American cars aren't dangerous. They're big and they're strong, and you don't need a seatbelt with an American car type thing.
What are you,
it's interesting,
a pansy?
It's interesting how people thought.
Oh my God. That's my thing nowadays with like electrical cars. I'm so glad that electric cars are finally taking up, because like I remember the fights with electrical cars and the whole idea of like, oh no, it's not possible. It's not worth it. Have everything running on gas. But now there's a lot of companies that are like, we're going to go all electric. Especially with Tesla. And I think it's Audi. Audi's going all electric. And I think Ford came out with their first electric truck,
Wow. Well, it's got to be cheaper, but how much does it cost to to recharge the battery?
Actually, hold on a second. Let me check. I think it's pretty cheap. Yeah, I think it's 4.5 cents a mile, which is basically it'll cost $7.65 to fully charge a Tesla.
And how many miles does it go on?
I think it goes for 300.
How much?
Hold on.
How many miles?
A Tesla of the battery. 328 miles.
Ooh, that is not bad.
So for $7, you fill up your entire car.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But how fast can it go? Is there
it is fast.
Go?
It is fast.
Whatever 100?
Yeah. Yeah, it can go pretty fast. It can get pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. I was reading something interesting, like about engines of the future. I was reading something about plans to send a man to Mars. And this article said that, of course, we're already sending spaceships to Mars, but the problem is not getting them there. The problem is getting them back.
Yeah, it's a death sentence.
Yeah, they said that at this time it is, but here's what they have planned for the future. They said the problem is that there's an area between where you're free of both the gravitational pull of the moon and Earth, but you're not quite in the gravitational pull of Mars yet. And you need a tremendous amount of thrust to get through that area and to blast a rocket off from Mars to return it to Earth, to get through that area at this time with the fossil fuel engine that we have, can't be done. we just can't get that speed. It requires a tremendous amount of speed. But what they hope to develop is a engine run by lasers, and that a laser engine would have that thrust and that speed to be able to get through that area. So I think we're thinking in terms of eventually not even electronics. I think we're thinking in terms, way in the future of a laser engine.
How would a laser work? How would the lasers have thrusters? That doesn't really make any sense. It's light. They're light particles. I don't understand how that would work.
I'm not a physicist. I don't know. This was an article that was basically for the common man, the common idiot man who doesn't know too much about physics. It was an article that was written by somebody from NASA, basically, watered down so the average person can understand it.
Oh shit, it's real. It's called laser propulsion. It's called a laser propulsion. Ablative laser propulsion is a form of beam-powered propulsion in which an external pulse laser is used to burn off plasma plume from a solid metal propellant, thus producing thrust. Oh, wow. That's real. They've been working on it for a while. That's really cool.
Yes, and I wouldn't use the S word when you're talking about propulsion.
What S word? All right. Okay. So that is it for our episode. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We love you. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Yeah, have a great Shabbos, honey. Love you. Are you having any plans for Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, probably sleep a lot. That's what I'm going to do.
Good idea.
Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Please like and share and find us on Facebook at Jewish Boy Calls His Mother Podcast. We are looking forward to hearing from you.